With all 9 NFL vacant head coaching gigs now filled, we have some clarity within the NFL. Matt, I have a very simple question for you. You trying to play a game with me, bro?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down when you hear this new head coach's name. Let's start off with the Chicago Bears and their head coaching hire, Matt Eberflus.
I'm going to go with the thumbs up, Scott, and here's why. Although he wasn't the flashiest or the one that was tied most, I know both of us wanted Dable in Chicago. The more you learned about Eberflus and the more you saw what he did working with Poles to fill out his coaching staff, I like what he's doing. And he created a great defense out in Indianapolis. He looks like he can be a strong head coach, and he wants to make Justin Fields the quarterback for the Chicago Bears, which has been the issue for the last few years, is choosing a quarterback and actually supporting them.
100%. This was not a slam dunk or home run hire by any means, but this gets a thumbs up for me for sure. And part of the reason is because I believe in Ryan Poles as a GM, and if he thinks that Matt Eberflus is the guy for this job, I'm willing to roll with it. I like the staff that Eberflus has assembled already. He was obviously an outstanding coordinator in Indianapolis, where the Colts had a great defense over the last few years. So this is a solid hire for the Bears, and I'm excited for their future. Let's switch gears. We're going to go to the Denver Broncos and talk about their new hire, Nathaniel Hackett. How you feeling?
This one is very hit or miss. I'm going to go here just simply because it does somewhat feel like it might have been more about trying to entice Aaron Rodgers. But the other thing is that if you're looking at offensive-minded coaches, I still think that as great as Hackett is and as successful as he was with Green Bay, I like Leftwich and I like Bieniemy a little bit more as far as offensive coaches go. And so I think that the fact that they went there, and also Doug Peterson for that matter, so I think there were better options out there. I'm excited to see what Hackett can do, but there's definitely other guys I would have gone with.
Easy answer here. The Broncos get my worst grade for this hire, of Nathaniel Hackett. And let's be clear, you're being too nice. They hired him because they thought they could maybe get Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, that is not looking like it's going to work out. So the Broncos look like fools. Nathaniel Hackett was not calling plays in Green Bay. That was Matt LaFleur. Any credit credit that Nathaniel Hackett might get for his time in Green Bay, and the Packers obviously being an outstanding offense for his time there, that could really be chalked up to Aaron Rodgers having the most talented quarterback, arguably, of all time running your offense. So Nathaniel Hackett, you don't get no love over here from me. But let's move forward. We're going to go to our next and talk about the Giants. Brian Daboll, what'd you think?
Absolutely a thumbs up, because this might be the favorite coach out of this entire group. He was right up there with Brian Flores. Bieniemy and Dable, for me, were the top guys that you could look at as far as coaching candidates. I think that if there is going to be anybody that could possibly unlock another level of Danny Dimes' career, it's Dable. It's yet to be seen, but I like the hire. I like the move for the New York Giants, and their offense should drastically improve over this offseason.
Get a thumbs up for me. Brian Daboll was my favorite hire. I just love what he was able to do in Buffalo with that offense, taking a quarterback in Josh Allen who came out from Wyoming, was pretty inaccurate, pretty unpolished, turned him into an all-pro caliber quarterback. Brian Daboll deserves a lot of credit for that. And this offense basically turned around on its head under his watch. So he was my favorite hire. I think the Giants got a slam dunk. And they're in a decent situation where they have a quarterback that they're unsure of. And Daniel Jones, if anybody can help maybe turn him into a legitimate starter at the quarterback position, it's probably going to be Brian Daboll. But let's go to the Raiders in Vegas. They got Josh McDaniels. What do you think about that?
Yeah, thumbs down, because if I had a meh, it just doesn't make any waves for me. I think McDaniels has been okay. He's been good as an offensive coordinator for the Patriots. There was that drama where he almost went to the Indianapolis Colts and then he decided not to. This doesn't really excite me, and I don't know what to expect out of him. He wasn't a great coach the first time around when he was in Denver, and I don't know what to expect from him this year, especially after you saw the Raiders rally around their interim head coach, who I thought absolutely deserved another shot, and to see if he could keep that going.
This might be our first disagreement there, but this actually gets a thumbs up for me. I like what the Raiders did here, bringing in McDaniels. I happen to look at McDaniels as, obviously he's an offensive-minded coach, but I happen to think of him as somebody who you give him a quarterback and he'll be all right. They'll be successful. Obviously, the Raiders have that, in my opinion, in Derek Carr. He showed a lot to me this past season, basically dragging that Raiders franchise to the playoffs with all the issues they had throughout the season. So I think McDaniels and Carr in Vegas, I think that all works out. But that remains to be seen. But let's shoot up north a little bit to the Minnesota Vikings. They brought in Kevin O'Connell from the Super Bowl champion LA Rams. What do you think about that one?
I'm going to go thumbs up right now because I think that everybody wants to go get a McVay guy or a Shanahan guy at this point as far as unlocking your offense.
Yeah.
And with all the weapons that they have in Minnesota and what you can see Kirk Cousins do with those weapons, I'm interested to see what a McVay guy can do with a running back like Dalvin Cook, with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Kirk Cousins. It's going to be interesting, but the jury's still out. That one is pretty close to McDaniels as far as thumbs up or thumbs down for me. So it's kind of hit or miss.
I agree. It's pretty close to McDaniels, and that's why I feel compelled to give it another thumbs up. I think the Vikings did what they had to do. They had to go get an offensive mind as their head coach to follow up with Mike during the Mike Zimmer tenure. And you mentioned all the offensive weapons they have there, starting with Kirk and Dalvin and Thielen and Justin Jefferson. What better offensive mind to get this cycle than the guy who just won a Super Bowl with the Rams, who's been under the McVay coaching tree. That tree has seen success over the last few years. So I like this hire for the Vikings. We're going to go back down south. Somebody who's following in the footsteps of Urban Meyer. The Jaguars got Doug Peterson as their guy. What do you think about Doug Peterson in Jacksonville?
This is just safe. This is Jacksonville making the smart, safe decision, and Jaguars, thank you for it. I mean, I don't know if we would have been able to handle another crazy offseason. And honestly, I want to see Trevor Lawrence succeed. I think Peterson both didn't handle the final days in Philadelphia well, but he also did. It wasn't all his fault. I think that he can work with Lawrence. He's a creative and offensive genius. Yeah. Give him a chance. Give this team some stability, and maybe they'll start trending in the right direction.
100%. I look at the Jags opening how I looked at the Bears. Their most important person in that franchise is their rookie who's soon to be a second-year quarterback, and that's Trevor Lawrence in the Jaguars' case. Hiring a head coach who can address that was the most important thing, and I think Doug Peterson did that. So this gets a thumbs up. Obviously, he went to and won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles as his quarterback. I think Trevor Lawrence is a bit of a tick up in terms of talent. It remains to be seen if he can reach those heights. But like you said, this is a safe pick for the Jaguars, and I like Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. I think that works out.
He won't get caught in a bar.
Hopefully not. Let's move on, though. Staying in the state of Florida.
All right.
The Dolphins got a kind of bit of a surprise pick on Mike McDaniel. What do you think about the Dolphins bringing in McDaniel as their head coach?
This one, once again, is very close for me. I'm going to go a thumbs up for now, but you have to really try and figure out how much was of the offensive ability in San Francisco. Was that Shanahan more so, or was it McDaniel? Similar to what you were talking about with Hackett, it's going to be kind of interesting to see if he can create his own scheme and see what he can do with Tua. Having Tua gives him a chance, and I think that you needed to bring an offensive mind in. So I'm going to give thumbs up for that sense, and hopefully Tua and him can build something down there in Miami.
The only hire I like more than this one, than the hire of Mike McDaniel, is the hire of Brian Daboll. So this obviously gets a thumbs up for me. I think McDaniel is going to do wonders for Tua in the Dolphins offense. I mean, McDaniel has just been raved about for the last few years in San Francisco. Kyle Juszczyk has come out and been super supportive of him. And he is, McDaniel I'm talking about, is one of the main engines behind that vaunted San Francisco 49ers rushing offense that has been dominant throughout the playoffs, throughout the regular season for the last few years. And I think he'll do something similar in Miami. And this is something that Tua has never had as an NFL player, an actual running game. So hopefully McDaniel can address that, fix the O-line. And I like this hire for the Dolphins a lot. 2 more to go. Down in Texas, the Houston Texans hired Lovie Smith as their next guy. What do you think about that?
As much as it pains me, because I absolutely loved Lovie Smith in Chicago. He was a great coach for the Bears, got them to a Super Bowl. This is a thumbs down because it doesn't feel like the Texans actually put a lot of hard work into this hire. It almost seems like they went through this process, had some candidates, and then waited until the end and just threw a guy's name out there because he was somewhat affiliated with the previous regime. But if you're going to fire Culley, why hire his defensive coordinator? It makes no sense. The Texans keep doing Texan things and making the Jaguars look like a really good franchise.
The Texans are lost, and this thumbs down has nothing to do with Lovie Smith as a person
Not
or
at all.
a coach because
Not at all.
his resume speaks for itself. He should have been retained by the Texans in some type of role, but as far as making him the head coach, that just seems like they're making him another placeholder, similar to what they just did with David Culley, who was likely going to be fired before he was even hired, and that turned out to be exactly the case. So I'm hoping that this isn't the same case for Lovie Smith, but that's certainly what it appears to be. And that's why this is a big thumbs down. On to our last. Did you have some of that? You feel like
I just want to say, Lovey deserves better than the Texans.
period. On to our last vacancy that has now been filled. That's with the Saints. They also chose to go in-house, hired their defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, as their next head coach. What do you think about Allen's hire?
I think it's really close again, but I'm going to go thumbs down because I think there were better options available. It felt like they almost rushed the situation simply because they were surprised or caught off guard by Sean Payton. I'm not sure how it went down. I will say Allen has really created a great defense down there, so there are some positives, but I just feel like they should have taken their time, looked at the other candidates that were still available, and instead of just staying in-house, look outward.
I actually don't mind this one.
Okay.
And I don't mind it for this reason. And I think it's just a little bit different than what the Texans did, hiring within and hiring Lovie Smith, because the Saints are not in the position that the Texans are in. The Saints are still a respectable franchise with a lot of talent on that roster, a talent that in a wide open NFC South can still probably win the division if they can get the quarterback figured out. I think staying in-house, going with the familiar face, somebody who's been successful running that defense, somebody who those players already know and love. I think that was the right move for the Saints. Again, this is a franchise that has historically, at least during my lifetime, kind of made the right decisions front office wise. And I think this was another one of them. So Dennis Allen gets a thumbs up for me.
I will say, unfortunately, as much as that is somewhat true, they have the worst salary cap situation heading into this season.
Right.
And I think that going with a fresh start rather than trying to continue to win now would have been a better move.
I got you. That's going to do it for us, though. Catch us on tomorrow's episode of Simple Question for your boy Scott Proctor and my guy Matt Morris, a.k.a. Big Red. We'll catch you next time.